Good morning. I am not by myself. I am Jodi, and Kevin and Donna are actually, I don't know where they are. I was not told where they were. I was just told they would not be here today. And so anyway, we really don't have a topic. So we don't know where we're going with this. So Lord willing, He will guide us, and we are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I forgot my headphones.
That's all right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wow. Okay, I have to fix that. I don't know what that is.
This is why I shouldn't have my. Okay.
Are you on still?
Yeah, it's still echoing.
Try that.
Okay, much better.
Okay.
Much better. Okay, we had the HDMI 3. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, so you can see it.
Well, no, I cannot see that far. I just remembered. Okay, so I hope we haven't hurt anybody's ears with that dreadful echo.
Okay. Oh, there I am. Yes. Much better. Much better without the echo. So yes, my name is Mark. Um, we are relatively new to Acts. I mean, we've been with Acts for a couple of years, but we haven't been in the capacity that we've been serving over the last 6 months. Correct.
Correct.
So our role in Acts now is we do a lot of behind the scenes here at the studio. We we clean. Well, you clean. She doesn't let me clean all the time.
Sorry if we were gone a minute. Our producer from home
Oh,
said we were off the air for a minute, or we were not off the air, we were frozen.
Oh, look at Steve.
So we have
Hey, Steve. Let me unmute that channel.
Hi there. Oh, I gotta scoot in. I got caught in a Whataburger drive-through line.
do we want
Yeah.
4?
Yeah.
Yes. What we were gonna say, who was gonna be the guest, and now we have 4 people.
We were going to talk about my book. Kevin wanted me to talk about my book.
Oh, see, there we go. And here we are talking about the book of Revelation.
Well, that's okay too.
And we could segue into your book.
There you go. That's a great idea. I love it.
So you were stuck in a Whataburger line, huh?
Well, we didn't plan on being that long. It was longer than we expected.
Okay, it just
opened.
and I'm like, I want to go. The closest one from here is actually by Bentonville, Arkansas,
Mhm.
that area. So it's pretty quite south from here.
No, we didn't leave from there.
No, we live there. So I'm like, we're coming up this way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go.
We have been known to take a road trip to Oklahoma just to go
3
to Whataburger.
hours.
Just to go to Whataburger.
Just to go to work.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't see me monitor.
We are freezing again.
Uh-oh.
Are we? No, we're not.
No, not
Oh, yes,
Yes.
we are.
kind of, sort of. I don't know.
Yep, down the bottom. So we're gonna have to.
We are
Yeah, I
still
apologize because it was my fault. I'll just take the blame.
Okay. No, I'm just
Whataburger
kidding.
is worth it. I love Whataburger.
gotta fix the camera too. So.
Yes.
There we go. Hey, there's my profile.
I thought it was a mugshot.
There, how's that?
That is, yeah. He's had those too. Oops,
Steve,
good.
you need coffee?
Yes, please.
Water?
Water, please. Yes, thank you.
What was it?
We're still on air.
Okay. I'm trying not to cough in the mic. And I'm not trying to cough on you either. Hi. Did we prayed and did the pledge?
Oh, you know what? I don't know if we were on when we prayed.
Okay.
Because Mark was back there and I was here, and then all of a sudden he was doing the countdown, and I think I prayed too soon.
Oh,
I mean, if you never pray too soon, but you know what I mean.
yeah.
Oh, hello there.
That's Faith.
That is faith.
Faith.
And this is Cash.
Faith is my friend.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we're so glad to all be together.
Amen. Yes.
I
So
missed you
excited are
guys.
here. Yeah,
I haven't seen you since last year.
I know. Forever.
Just kidding, folks. We saw each other, what, 2 weeks ago?
Which was last year.
Which was last year.
Not me,
Yeah,
though.
it was
Last year.
2022.
Yeah. I
Oh.
haven't seen, it's been at least one of the conventions since
Yeah.
we've seen you.
Oh, yeah.
So we started the show talking about some of the changes at Axe, some of the different shows.
Mm-hmm.
To include your children's show,
Yeah.
hopefully soon.
Soon.
Yeah. I didn't give like a specific time frame. Just I know you're doing some.
Yeah, there's some changes.
And that's how we got into like the revelation also.
Mhm.
Revealing.
Revealing.
things.
Revelation does mean reveal.
Yes.
Yeah, I did learn that in cemetery. I mean, seminary.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Mark Lowry.
We like Mark Lowry.
Yeah,
We've seen him.
he's the one that said cemetery, so I just caught on to that. No, I learned so much from
And we actually took the book of Revelation in church. We did a whole big series. And then there was a book called Revelation Revealed. I read that book. And so there's a lot. Different people have different outtakes, but it all basically is the same thing. They just have their own, they customize it to where they teach it and preach it, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, there are probably preachers out there that do teach it way out there, but I haven't heard any personally.
We were talking this morning how at church how there are individuals, there are Christians who are scared. They're literally frightened to read the book of Acts and
Revelation.
Revelation. We're at Acts. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's all
I
right.
love the book of Acts. It's my favorite book. But they're frightened to read the book of Revelation because of all the everything being revealed, the ghost, the not the ghost, the what they call the monsters, everything,
The beast.
The imagery
Beasts.
and everything. That's
Yes, exactly. But how people relate, though, they're thinking, ghouls and ghosts and scary, scary things. And so I had Mark. I was trying to find it in my phone, and I had Mark read. And if you could please reread, because that's where we got all
we're at.
lost and frozen and everything.
Yeah,
else.
Right.
So-
Didn't
and
mean
then-
to interrupt you, but
And Steve blessed us with his presence.
So in Revelation, chapter
1, verse 3.
verse 3.
It says, "Blessed is he who reads, and those who hear the words of the prophecy, and who keep the things which are written in it, for the time is near." That's out of the Amplified version. I didn't read the little Amplified text that go with it, but that's the Amplified version of Revelation chapter 1, verse 3. It's blessed.
Yeah.
Blessed. We are so blessed whenever we read
Yes.
his word.
So,
yeah, I feel blessed.
no fear. Just
Shh. That's my fault.
Star Trek.
That's right. Beat me up.
Beam me up, Scotty. So you're going to talk about your book today.
Yeah. No, are we, if we need to continue in Revelation, I don't have any problem with that. I was going to originally, Rachel was going to interview me originally, but that's okay. I'm glad the four of us are here. So then you guys get to interview me.
Oh my goodness.
well,
Ooh.
I think it would be better we can do some brief interview stuff, but since I think Rachel would have a better sense of interview because she kind of goes hand in hand with you, your book, your life,
Mm-hmm.
everything else.
Okay.
My question, first and foremost, is
Yes.
when and where did you decide to write a book?
Well, actually, it's write a story. It's not really a book, but that I've been encouraged now in the future to write a book. But it's actually, you've heard of collaboration books, where they own like Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yes.
Okay, well, it's
Yes,
that
I've
kind of
heard
a thing where a friend of mine who actually went through a lot, she actually encouraged me. She was at a conference that was held by none other than our Jill Reynolds. It was through Braveheart Workshops. And that's how I met Misty. And so when I started telling her about my story, because her next book is called Speak Up and Speak Out. And she had different individuals want to write their own story about they need to speak up and speak out, whatever their case may be. And mine happened to be on bullying. And because I was bullied all my life, or when I say all my life, I mean through school, at home, at church. And so she said, well, give me an example. And I told her, she said, you definitely need to be a co-author in the book. So she said, just pick out 3 stories that you know of that have a positive ending and put a positive spin on it at the end. And that's what I did. 2,500 words. That's a lot of words.
That's a lot of words. Wow.
That's a lot of words.
She said, when you come down to it, it's like,
You have no idea.
when you come down
Yeah.
to it, it's like, oh man, how many? Well, it's like 8 pages, but then when you write it out, it actually comes to about 4.5.
Wow.
But that's still a lot of words. But in those, a lot of those words was my story, was my life, and the reason, the other thing was, is I've always been scared to really talk about my bullying life at home because my dad was alive,
Mhm.
and I thought, man, if my dad ever found out that I was talking about him in a bad light, I'd be in a lot of trouble. So I just kept my mouth shut, and I never really told anybody how bad it really was at home. At church, people saw it here and there, but they didn't really make a big deal about it. But it's still, I was still bullied. And so I just said, you know what? I think I need to do something about this, and maybe it'll heal myself as well as heal somebody that really is going through the same thing I went through or going through, and see what kind of positive outtake that I went through. Maybe it'll help them.
Yeah.
And so uh, that's what that's what inspired me to write the book.
Yeah. Words can help, or
Hmm.
words can hurt. Words can heal. Words are so much.
And I tell people, sticks and stones may break your book. That doesn't hurt, that doesn't count anymore,
Yeah.
because those words can leave an eternal scar on somebody.
Mhm.
Words can heal, like you said. The tongue can be very sharp,
Yeah.
and it can cut right through somebody, or a tongue can be a healer.
Well, the Bible says it's the strongest. Well, it is the strongest muscle
Hmm.
in your body,
Hmm.
and it's also. I'm trying to. I don't want to misquote the Bible. Good grief. Um, it's the hardest thing to control.
Hmm.
You know.
You're paraphrasing, but you got it.
Yes, you are. We alone, without God, we are physically incapable of controlling this tiny little thing right here.
Hmm.
This tiny little thing inside our mouth.
I think one of it talks about it being like a rudder on a boat
Yes.
where it steers.
Yeah.
It can steer it's so small, but it has enough power to steer the big ship, the big boat.
Yeah.
You two Navy veterans would know more about steering a boat than I would. I'm
It's
just
not a steering wheel for sure.
no, it's not. It's not, but it's a very vital.
But I know what you mean.
And just like our tongue, it's a vital piece of our body.
Yeah.
It gives us our voice,
Hmm.
and just like you said, people abuse their tongues all the time.
Mhm.
We bless and we curse. We bless and we
Yes.
curse.
Yeah.
And if your story can reach out there and touch someone and change their lives to better themselves, to speak out against whatever it
Hmm.
is and have their own story, because it's our stories that reach out to other people and can pull them out of that depression
Right.
that they're in.
Hmm. And even though I'm a veteran in the Navy, they have their own way of bullying. I mean, it might not be just the high school bullying, but they can talk you in and try to.
Yeah.
If you're a Christian, they can just poo-poo you, and I know that's a bad word to say, but I mean, they kind of they harass you,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, "Oh, you're praying over your meal," that type of thing. So even though you're in the Navy and you still get that bullying, it's still bullying, and you just have to ask the Lord to strengthen and be that testimony and continue to do what you don't let them turn your way of thinking into something else. And that's how I actually became a Christian, is because all along, all my life up until that time, I'm thinking I was a Christian because I led people to the Lord, and I did children's ministry. But then when I got in the Navy, I didn't realize how tough it really was. And I found out, well, maybe because of the cursing, because, of all the wrong things that I was doing, I said, you know what, Lord, maybe I'm not saved. And I made sure um, in 1987, just a week before Thanksgiving, or Thanksgiving week. And I realized I screwed up. And from that point on, I felt more like alive. I felt more like, not more saved, but I felt more like I really was saved at that point.
Mhm.
So, but then I became more of a testimony to those guys because to the other sailors, to my bunk mates or rack mates. Is what it's rack, not bunk. It's rack, and it's deck, not floor. We used to get in trouble in boot camp. What is it? It's a deck, sir. You, what did you just say before? I said it starts with an F. I went, floor. It is not a floor. It is a deck.
Well, words are powerful. You know?
Yeah. So,
So
but getting back to the idea of cursing and um, being bullied, it just depends on who you're around, and you can be a testimony around those bullies.
Mhm.
And bullies can be turned around if you are a witness to them. They eventually turn around and say, "What is it with you? What does it make you tick? How come you're treating me this way?" Well, I'm so glad you asked. And then you go right into your testimony, and that's what I've done. So being bullied when I was a kid has really turned into a blessing, and for me to go to churches and ministries and to places for me, and even on the radio, I've been on other radio interviews now telling my story, and I've been invited to come back and really speak more about the positive side of what you can do to be a help to somebody. So, but my story really, like Rachel, she was going to ask me a few questions because she knows, she, like you said, she knows my life. So,
no, mostly like your family history, kind of about your parents, how
um,
and
um, to be honest, my dad has always been a bully, and I didn't realize this until after he passed. I found out a lot of information after he passed, including being married twice before. And I was like, what? And my mom just blurted it out the day after he passed. We were going through things, and she just kind of blurted out, "Well, you know, your dad's been married twice before." And I'm like, what? Well, he
Wow.
was a bully to, what is he, my half? Would he be my
half brother.
half brother? When he was just real little, I think maybe a toddler, maybe 2, 3 years old,
Yeah.
my dad treated him like he treated me, and he bullied in 2 or 3 years old. And his poor wife Bobby, she was treated poorly, and so I'm thinking that it started way back before I was even born, and he started bullying other people besides our family. He bullied the whole family actually, and but I was the worst. I took the blunt of a lot of it, to the point where I was physically abused. But getting back to the family history, my mom was the prayer warrior, my dad was the abuser. And so each one of us kids, I have two sisters and one brother. Well, the brother passed away, is it 3 years ago this month? Or 3 years ago this month?
I think so. Boy, it's been
Yeah.
we've been gone through a lot, so I can tell you that.
So that's kind of like in a short version of the family history.
Um, so I'm going to mention about like elementary school. I mean, really, the biggest deal really for Steve really is just that his father, and he really had a hard time. He didn't, if you weren't any use to him, he didn't bother with you very much. So that's Steve is a different type of person than his dad was. So
And I was a different person other than my brother. My brother was a mechanic, and he loved that. He loved that my brother worked on cars. I did puppet ministry. And so it was the mechanic versus the puppeteer. And what are you going to do with your life as a puppeteer versus mechanic? Well, I went on to do more serious puppeteering and did Christian programming. We went to different campgrounds and did, my friend and I, there was like 4 of us. And so I went on to lead more kids to the Lord. So, see, even though I wasn't that mechanic, my dad didn't understand that because he was a truck driver. He'd been a truck driver for what, 30, he ended up 38, 39 years of truck driving. So, with the mechanic, him being a truck driver and me being a puppeteer. So, he just had his own way of treating me as though he treated me like more like a baby than he did like growing up. Even in my young adult life, even when Rachel and I were married, he didn't go to our wedding. My mom did, and so it's not that he disapproved Rachel or anything. It was me. It was all me. So and so I take all these stories and I took the 3 biggest stories out of all that and put it in a book. And that's what's coming out. We were supposed to have it out November 29th, but from what I hear, January 29th is the actual deadline. So sometime probably in February is when it's coming out. I'll let everybody know. So
Let me ask you something, Steve. Do you think the way that your father treated you is that the reason why you are so in tune to a children's style ministry?
mhm. Because I want to turn around and be a blessing to other children who might be going through something that they're not telling me or telling anybody. But then by me, I've never said anything about my personal testimony. But yeah, I have a childlike faith, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah,
Hmm.
that's that was a good question. Yeah, that's the best way
You
I
want, you
know.
want to be the adult that you should have had when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a tendency to lean
Oops, sorry.
towards my dad's mannerisms. He never talked. He never really. I remember coming home from school, and my dad would sit there at our kitchen table, and he was a drinker, and that's what he would do, Monday through Friday. He'd get off work, and he would sit alone in his silence, and have his alcohol. And I always thought that was like the norm. So I kind of went into my own life of that, and I never did break that chain until way later in life. But I still have a tendency to clam up. I still have a tendency not to speak out or try to break that. So I hearing you and hearing how positive that you were able to break that cycle of abuse, to break that and turn your life into a ministry. Um, to me is very powerful.
Hmm.
Um, I've always viewed you as kind of a very big prayer warrior, as a staple of that.
Well, thank you.
So, and hearing your story, I can understand that a little bit better. So, thank you.
You're welcome. I think that veterans, as well as families get bullied from those veterans. And I know that because I have veterans whose families were bullied back in Vietnam. They they said, "Oh, you're in that family of that guy or that gal that went to Vietnam." And I don't know. I don't hear too many bad stories about people being treated that way anymore. But um, I just know in my own life that um, I want to encourage veterans that are going through something like this. Sometimes it's hard to swallow, but you just, as Christians, we need to pray and ask God to give us, put on the armor, put on the full armor of God,
Amen.
and keep that shield up and use that sword.
That's right.
We just went through that class with Dr. Barry Young.
Yes, yes. So we are doing it's a chaplain's class,
Mm-hmm.
and it is for military, first responders, EMS, and we kind of talk about how we deal with trauma. Okay, this trauma can be abuse.
Mm-hmm.
This trauma can be death. This trauma can be, anything. Some things are traumatic to some people, but they're not traumatic to other people. And there's one thing that's a little bit different about veterans and EMS and police and um, um, firefighters, first responders, is that oftentimes there's if Sally down the road is not a first responder or whatever, and she has a bad day, she's going to talk to somebody. But as a veteran, we're not going to reach out to somebody. So we need to reach out to each other,
Right.
period. EMS, we're not going to reach out to somebody. So we need to reach out to each other, period. Police, firefighters, first responders, we need to reach out to help each other. Okay. There might be other kids or adults that were abused that don't want to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you talking about your book or somebody reading, not your book, but the book that you're part of,
Right.
hopefully somebody will see this book and read this book and they will get a piece of their own life back. Because oftentimes, when people live through something that traumatizes them, they lose a piece of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they get it back, oftentimes they don't. And that is where, you know, I'm a talking person. I have been through hell and back, literally, not cussing, but I have been through horrible, horrible stuff, as has Mark. I don't have a problem. Well, I kind of do, but I mean, I talk about stuff and I'm okay with it because I'm assuming his gender. He does not like to talk. So he'd rather keep things bottled up inside. Whereas, and this is what I'm thinking he was trying to tell you.
Right.
You wrote that down. You broke the chain.
Mhm.
He's still, that chain is right here with him.
Right.
And he's trying to let go of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right here. And my dog knows that my PTSD is flaring and he just put his chin on my leg.
Oh.
That's
So
that's she hit the nail on the head. She really did, and I think that's. I hate to generalize, but that is a very common topic amongst. I can speak for veterans and I can speak for first responders because we've been both. We'd rather just bottle it up, suck it up, buttercup, as Dr. Young would say. And you know, you talked about being bullied, and I think in the military they call it hazing now. You know,
Yes.
and we're not supposed to haze anymore, but
Right.
we know that it still goes on.
Yes, it
And,
does.
you know, and there's unwritten codes, and you know, there's been movies written about it, and we've probably seen it firsthand. Um, and people have spoken out against it. There are, you know, the whistleblowers. Um, I don't know if we'll ever be able to stop that. I don't.
Yeah,
But
it's a big
we can make a stand.
right. It's a big thing now. I mean, you don't hear about it. Sometimes it's under the radar,
Mhm.
or they don't talk about it because if you do, then are they going to believe you?
Mhm.
But I wanted to mention one incident that did happen. By the way, my dad was a drinker, and he was an alcoholic. I didn't know that, and he stopped drinking just before he started raising the family that I'm involved with now. And so my sisters went ahead and gave me the blessing to go ahead and spread the word about me being abused and everything. I was a little hesitant at first,
You
and
shouldn't need anybody's blessing to rid
well,
yourself
I
of.
thought so.
No.
Not that I needed to, but I thought so. Me, before I really thought about when I was thinking about doing it, but they said, hey, if it's going to heal somebody and heal yourself, then
Yeah.
why should we stand in the way?
Yeah.
So they had no problem. But one of the things was um, my dad was um, he was outside. He was mad at my sister for some reason. I forgot why. I think it was his name. Anyway, um, so he was outside, and we had a phone outside in the garage just in case the phone rang. My mom couldn't hear it. Well, he picked it up, and I was on the phone. Well, he was outside sharpening his lawnmower blade, and so he happened to hear the conversation, and next thing I know, boom, 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 coming through the house, and that door swung wide open in my bedroom. Took a chunk. He had that lawnmower blade. Took a chunk out, and I thought he'd just drop it. And well, no, he grabbed me took the phone, threw it against the TV, busted the TV, and proceeded to go ahead and use the lawnmower blade like a switch. Only he just finished sharpening that blade, and I automatically, your hands behind your back, don't hit me, or don't hit me hard. He goes, well, don't put your hands behind your back. Don't put your hands behind your back. I'm like, don't hit me, don't hit me. Well, I did anyway, and he took that lawnmower blade and smacked me while the blade caught my hand and opened it up, and I thought I lost my hand. And so that was abuse, and I right away I'm thinking my mom freaked out, of course, and I said, I want to put him in jail. I want to call. No, 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 don't do that, because then she would have to go through all this and take care of us, and she didn't. So she was being very. She was scared, but she said, don't do that to your dad. That was just one incident. Another incident was breaking a rake in front of a friend of mine so that I could just be the only one with a rake. And he called my neighbor friend a fat slob, and she took off running. So there was those were physical abuse type things. So that's what I went through in my early childhood. Well, I think I was a teenager. Wasn't I an early teen? Didn't I tell you I was a
Yeah.
um and so when people hear that story and they hear that, they're like, how in the world did you ever get through? I say, God's the one that really protected me and put a covering over me. But I will tell you folks that I did forgive my dad before he passed. It was just before he passed, I want to let him know. And he ended up with dementia, Alzheimer's, and I don't know if he really understood what I was trying to say, but everybody that heard me, my mom, a couple other people, they heard me just say, Dad, I forgive you for everything that you've done. Because I've had other guys actually call and say, did you ever forgive your dad for what he did to you? And I said, yes, I did. And see, that really counts, is when you forgive that person, or whether it's your father, mother, another person, then you have a sense of relief, and of course, God's gonna forgive you and forgive him, whoever it may be. So I just want to let you know, veterans, mom, dad, brother, sister, if you're going through something, God's large and he's in charge, and He's going to be there for you. You just have to open up your heart. If you don't know him, open up your heart. And now, Mark, do you remember? Do you remember I was trying to remember the email. So if you want to ask questions, you want to email us.
It's right there on our banner right there.
Okay, it's veterans.church.
Yep. veterans/church@axmediagroup.com.
Okay. So just remember at the bottom of the screen, please reach out to us. We'd really love to hear from you and any questions, comments, anything like that. So,
Got about 15 seconds.
no. So, Lord, thank you very much for giving us the time today. We thank you for what you're going to do now in Jesus' name.